It's like if you knew there was hard evidence that your girl was cheating on you, you would do something about it.
Right.
But if you're unwilling to do something about it because of the consequences, then you've deceived yourself, even though the evidence is there and you have the knowledge of it still.
Right.
You're just refusing to accept it.
Right.
And that's what we say is going on with atheists.
Welcome back to Campfire Apologetics, where I help give the everyday Christian tools to help defend their faith in a hostile culture. I'm Mark Hudson, and today I'm joined by Alex. Is it Medeiros?
Medeiros.
Medeiros.
Yeah.
Okay, Medeiros. Sorry, I should have asked you that before, but
Right.
anyway, yeah, no, it's all good. Well, yeah, I'm welcoming Alex to the show. He's also known as Wi-Fi Gospel. If you are familiar with the Think Institute and Joel Sedekish, you may have seen him on there quite a few times. He helps Joel moderate a lot of different debate streams and things like that. But yeah, it's a pleasure to have you on, man. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. It should be fun.
Yeah, man. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your channel and what you do?
Yeah, so my channel is just at Wi-Fi Gospel. That's on every social media: TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, or X, and Facebook and YouTube. And basically what I do is I debate mostly atheists and some other non-Christians. And we usually talk about the existence of God. Another thing that I've been having a lot of fun with lately is what's better for society, Christian ethics or secular ethics. And so I mostly do live stream open panel debates or formal debates. You can check those out on the channel.
Nice. That's awesome, man. How long you been doing the debate stuff? Did it start as that, or was it just more you doing random videos and then it turned into debates, or that was the purpose of the channel from the beginning?
Yeah, so I'm 29 now. When I was 21, I did my first formal debate. So about 6 months to a year prior to that, I started getting into apologetics. It was more so because I had, excuse me, a spiritual experience that led to my conversion to Christianity. I wasn't like an atheist or anything. I was probably like, I don't even know if I would have called myself a Christian, but if you asked me if God exists, I'd be like, yeah, I just, don't really care.
Yeah, that sounds very similar to where I came from.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
But my grandfather was a evangelical pastor for about 40 years. And so I grew up, in and out of the church. And so when I had this spiritual experience, I went back to the Bible and I was like, all right, I have a decision to make. Either I care about this stuff or I don't. I needed to,
Yeah.
I was at like a fork in the road. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
It's
then,
either in or out, right?
right. Yeah. I was like, because I was just like, I didn't even know, what life was about. I was 18. I was like, I'm either going one of two directions, and the other direction was not a good direction. I'll tell you that. But I was like, if nothing is true, then who cares?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So then when I became a Christian, it was, just off of this spiritual experience. I felt the peace and the love and the joy of God. And, I started asking the questions that every Christian ends up asking themselves is like, all right, well, what does it mean to be a Christian? What does it mean to have faith?
Right.
And, am I saved? What does that mean? And how do I know I'm saved? And all those questions that naturally come about. And then once I kind of got a grasp on what I believed about those topics, I actually had people online and, people in real life, my friend group and stuff would start questioning, like, why do you believe this stuff? And I would just tell them my experience, and that was good enough for me. But I realized that it wasn't good enough for them. So I
Yeah.
was like, well, is there a rational way to come to Christianity, or does everybody just need to have a spiritual experience?
Right.
Yeah. And then I started looking up apologetics. Um, I'm not sure. I was already a Calvinist at this point. So the people I looked to were Calvinists. I wanted to know what they thought about apologetics.
Yeah.
And most of those people were Cy Ten Bruggencate, Jeff
Right.
Durbin.
Yep.
James White was actually the first person. And it was he would debate. It's interesting because he would debate not really many atheists when I knew him. I know he has done atheist debates, but when I
Yeah.
first when I first got a hold of him, it was like Jehovah's Witness, Mormons, Islam.
Yeah, most of what I've seen has been him debating, like the reliability of the New Testament and things like that.
Right, I
Um,
think he did that with Dan Barker, right?
he may have done one with him. I know he's done maybe a few now with Bart Ehrman.
Yep.
There was another guy. I'd have to look it up. I can't remember his name. He's kind of a guy that's not as well known as the other two, but
Is it
yeah, I
Richard
don't know.
Spencer? Something.
Maybe.
He was a Christ mythicist.
No, you know what? I think the
No.
guy I'm thinking of was I want to say he was a Mormon
Oh, okay.
before. I could also be
Hmm.
just making things up too. So I can't
Yeah.
remember. Um, I watched the debate like twice, but I'd have to go back and find it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I
But
haven't like you. I haven't seen him do a ton of stuff with atheists.
yeah. But I kept hearing this funny word called presuppositional apologetics.
Yep. Yeah.
And yeah, once I started looking into that, I came across Jeff Durbin and Saitin Bruggencate.
Hmm.
And then after about 6 months to a year of listening to them, I decided to try to get into a formal debate with somebody. And so my first idea was to, and at the time, like online debates definitely happened, but especially listening to James White, he put a huge emphasis on in person debates. So I was like, well, that's how you do it then, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I reached out, I emailed the atheist. There's a couple of like atheist organizations. One of them is the Atheist Humanist Society,
Hmm.
and they all have like state chapters. So I emailed the states around me. One of those states is Connecticut, and a man by the name of Dennis Paul Himes was the president of the Atheist Humanist Society of Connecticut, and he agreed to do the debate.
Can
So I
never
was,
trust a guy with two first names, man.
yeah, that's funny. He was an older gentleman. I think he's like 80 now. I'm
Oh
pretty sure
wow.
he was about 70 something when I debated him. Yeah.
Sheesh. How did that go? How was that first debate you did?
It was interesting. It was a fun experience. I put together the whole thing. I got, the place, I got all the equipment.
Okay,
Um,
so you did it in person. You
yeah.
okay. Nice. That's awesome.
And the audio got so messed up. I rented audio equipment from, I think the company is called ATE or something. It's like an audio they put on events, and they
Uh,
were like they quoted me like 3 grand or something to do it, and I was like, yeah, I'm 21, married with my first kid on the way. I don't have
yeah,
3 grand.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, who does? That's crazy.
So they're like, we'll rent you the equipment for $200, and I was like, sold.
There you go. Talked them
Yeah.
down from 3 grand to 200.
Yeah. So they gave me all the audio equipment, and I borrowed my stepmom's camera. And that debate is on YouTube.
Is it?
If
Okay.
Yeah, if you go to the Wi-Fi Gospel YouTube channel under the debates playlist, it's the
Okay.
first one there.
Okay.
It was uploaded to my old YouTube channel called Proclaiming the Cross. Um, and the audio is decent. I had to like edit it afterwards because it was all messed up, but you can still hear it. It's not bad.
It's gonna sound like the Greg Bonson, Gordon Stein remastered.
Not that bad, but yeah, yeah.
Every
You can
time I go to
hear.
listen, I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna make it through, but this is rough.
Yeah, it's like watching a movie you loved when you were a kid,
Yeah, yeah.
and you go back and watch it, and you still watch it because it's nostalgic and you love it, but you're like, man, this is tough with these graphics.
Yeah. Yes, this looks like it was recorded with a potato or something.
Right.
It just doesn't look good. Oh man.
Yeah.
Nice,
So
man. Well, what's
yeah, I
up?
was
Yeah,
gonna say
go ahead.
you could tell like I didn't really fully grasp the arguments,
Yeah.
but I think I did pretty good. I'll let the
Okay.
audience decide.
From your experience, what were some of his objections that he brought up? I mean, do you remember some of the arguments? Were they more like deeply philosophical, or were they kind of your typical things that you hear from most atheists?
All typical things. Here's the thing. So there's something called knowledge gapping, right? So knowledge gapping in a debate is when someone uh, uses language that you're not familiar with or comes up with ideas that you're not necessarily familiar with, and you don't know really how to navigate them because you're not knowledgeable about them. It's called knowledge gapping.
Mm.
And another term in the debate sphere is stun locked, right? So you can get knowledge gapped and then you get stun locked where you don't really know how to react.
Yeah. You kind of freeze.
Yes. And so this kind of happened to me in the debate because it was, I believe, about math. We're talking about math and the laws of math. And he said piano arithmetics. I was like, I didn't know what that was. And in my mind, I was thinking of like the instrument, a piano.
That's what I would think. Yeah.
But it was actually, after I looked it up, it's a guy's name, Piano, P-A-N-O. And
Okay.
he's basically like the godfather of arithmetic. So most of what we know about arithmetic is the foundation of it is piano arithmetic.
Okay. Yep.
So that's all he was saying. And so there was stuff like that where it kind of caught me off guard and I didn't really know how to react. But all of the arguments were very basic. This is a time where not many people know about presuppositional apologetics, right?
Mm.
So when you debated people, it was something that completely caught them off guard. They had really no idea what you were talking about. So it was fairly easy to debate people with it.
Yeah.
But I also have a problem that I've corrected a lot, but I'm still working on, where I make a point in a debate and I know this point is powerful and it really reveals the absurdity of my opponent's worldview, but I don't capitalize on that and I don't make the audience well aware of what just happened. I just assume that they catch it because I caught it.
Yeah. Right. Right. You don't point
Yeah.
it out.
Right.
Yeah.
So when people watch it, they may, if you're not familiar with the arguments, you may not connect the dots as well. Just from, not being familiar with the arguments.
Yeah. Did you find yourself kind of like making a point and you thought, okay, that's a strong point, and then instead of, like you said, instead of like expanding on it and explaining it and pointing it out, you would move on to like a new argument? Is that
Exactly.
okay? Yeah.
That was very well put, because that's exactly what would happen, and it can almost seem like you hit a dead end, so you moved on, even
Mm,
if you made a really good point. So
yeah. Yeah.
anybody's looking good.
No, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No,
I
you're
was going
fine.
to say, I think it seems like there's like a tendency to just like knowledge dump everything. Like when you're talking with, and I mean, it could be an atheist, it could be whatever, just a non-believer in general, and there's this like temptation to like share everything you have ever learned with them. It's I don't know if
Mm,
you experience that too, but there's times where I'm like, oh, there's this and there's this and there's that. You know what I mean? Like it's like I want to
yeah,
share it all, but there's no time and they're not going to grasp all of it. And
yeah, absolutely. It happens in debates too. Like a lot of times with the Christian ethics debate, the atheist will want to get into slavery, and
oh
I've spent so much time studying the philosophy of ownership. And so I like to get into the weeds, but a lot of times it's not conducive to the debate. So,
that I was going to say, speaking of popular objections, anytime, and I experienced it today because I release episodes every Tuesday. So today being Tuesday, I put up little clips on, Instagram and TikTok and all those things, which are just war zones. And every time I post anything like about morality, like
yeah,
the fact that an unbeliever does not have a foundation to even be moral. Um, I mean, it's like 100% of the time somebody will comment something like, um, you know, the Christian claiming objective morality while the Bible says it's okay to own slaves, like every single time. And
yeah,
I'm like, but you don't even see what you just did. Like you just assumed objective morality. Like
yeah,
you couldn't have made the argument you just made unless you did it from my worldview.
right,
Like you literally took something from my worldview to make your point, but you didn't catch that you did that. And it's like it's so hard to not get caught up in all of it because you're like, no, like address what I said. I'm talking about just morality in general. I'm not addressing specific passages in the Bible. I'm not talking about any of those things. They always want to seem to change the subject and jump to here and there and pull up every single verse they could possibly think of that supports, their worldview, or they think that it does anyway. And it's, I don't know if you experience the same thing or not, but I'm just kind of like sharing my own experience. That's what I seem to see almost on a weekly basis anyway. But
Yeah, it's a red herring, right? It's a logical fallacy.
yeah.
You make an argument and they want to bring up something that is, even if it seems related, it's not related to your actual argument, because your argument is on what's called a meta ethical level, right? Meta
Yeah.
ethics.
Right.
And then what they're bringing up is like a normative ethic. So
Hmm.
they're just skipping right past your claim to objective morality and
Yeah.
saying, well, your normative ethics say that this is wrong, and my subjective meta ethics
Yeah.
or say it's right, and my subjective meta ethics say that that's right or that's wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of the times it's like it's really hard. I think I might just like make a pledge to myself to stop trying to even respond, because it's never good. There was a guy on Instagram earlier, and he just didn't get. I don't think he got what I was saying. Because it had to do with morality. I was quoting R.C. Sproul, when he said that if somebody says that there is no objective morality, steal their wallet.
Mhm.
And so this guy's writing back and forth. And he's like, well, if you stole my wallet, then I would just take it back and then I would call the cops and have you arrested. Basically, just saying like he was saying, it's my preference that my wallet isn't stolen. And I'm like, okay, but if you're gonna call the cops to have somebody arrested, now you're making a moral claim against what I did to you. If it's just your preference, then it didn't matter. But we were just going back and forth, and he's just not getting what I'm saying, and that's kind of why
Mhm.
I'm like, I don't know, maybe more in person conversations would be much easier or better to have than than these internet conversations.
When it comes to text and comments, I used to do a lot of this on Facebook. There's quite a few Facebook groups. They're kind of dead now. I've tried to actually post in them recently, because what I'll do is, if I have something that I'm not particularly strong at arguing, my first line of defense to get better is, obviously, I study the issue in depth. I
Mm,
come up with my arguments. I look at the counter arguments and the objections, and then I'll take it to like a Facebook group, or I'll make an Instagram short about it and I'll argue in my comments about it. And
mm,
this is a low risk way of developing kind of a logic tree in developing refutations of objections, because there's nobody's gonna pull up comments you made and then
yeah,
use that as like, see, you don't know what you're talking about. Maybe sometimes, especially if you get more popular. Um,
they'd have to
but
do a lot of digging to pull that stuff up.
right. Yeah,
It's a
but
lot
like
of a lot of homework they probably don't want to do. So
exactly. Another low risk way is to anonymously go on, especially when I first started, I didn't have any subscribers or followers. I would go up on TikTok live streams. So I don't know if you spent much time on TikTok, have you?
I mean, here and there, like I have you know, a an account on there. I have a personal account, and then I have my Apologetics account. I typically, I mean, I don't spend a ton of time on there, but I've seen people doing like live stream debates and things like that.
Right. So when you're scrolling on TikTok, it's interesting. They've really mastered the algorithm. The algorithm is, I mean, that's probably their number one value proposition in selling the company, is like, when they sell the company, which might go to Israel, or an Israel company, which is interesting. Uh,
Oh, you don't say.
they they won't sell the algorithm. That's like proprietary. So they don't
Oh,
even want to sell the company. They're just being forced to in order to stay in the US, right?
yeah. Right.
But their algorithm is just really good, even for regular videos. But for live streams, what they do, and YouTube is starting to do this as well. But when you're scrolling through your feed on TikTok, live streams will pop up in between videos that you're watching. And
Hmm.
then if you just click on it, you join the live stream, and So a lot of people have grown careers. Some political people who actually started off debating as atheists are Dean Withers and Parker. They're two young kids.
I think I know Parker sounds familiar.
Yeah, they
Yeah, I'm sure I've
Dean.
seen him.
Yeah, Dean blew up because he did a Jubilee. You know Jubilee.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Dean and Parker went on with Charlie when Charlie Kirk was on Jubilee. And they after that, Jubilee invited Dean to do his own 1 versus 20. And it got like 20 million views. So he blew up. He was already doing like 1,000 people on his live stream debating politics.
Yeah.
And then it blew up. Now he has like 10, 15,000 people who watch him during a live stream on TikTok. So,
Oh, wow.
but they used to do God debates and they would get like 1,000 people and stuff. And then there are quite a few other atheists just in deconstruction. They've made careers doing this. There's a huge atheist population on TikTok, probably more than any other social media.
I've noticed.
Yes.
I don't know what it is about my videos. It's like I can't seem to get the algorithm to go to other people, but it's always the atheist.
Yeah, if you're an atheist and you've got the chops and you start a live stream doing debates against Christians, you can blow up pretty quickly. But
Okay,
yeah, so
that's good
I
to know.
would go up on their panels and I would have arguments against people like Dean and Parker, and a ton of other people, Dr. Blitz, Justin Deconstruction, ton of other people, and I would it's another kind of low risk way to develop your arguments.
Mm,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, interesting. It's good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's I mean, right now, I watch a ton of debates. I'm always watching them. I'm always having discussions with people out and about at work, whatever. So it's like kind of having little debates here and there, but just not on my channel
Yeah.
um, as of yet. But yeah, what would getting kind of back to the objections and stuff? What do you think is the number one thing that you come across when? I guess we'll just go with atheists because um, that seems to be the topic, or mostly the people that we've been talking to. But yeah, what comes up the most for you as far as the objections go?
Yeah, I would say the biggest objections that I get is atheists, the general view of the average atheist you come across on the internet is I don't have enough evidence. So
Hmm.
I just lack a belief in God because I haven't been convinced to believe in any sort of God, right? I'm sure you've heard that.
Yeah. Yep.
And so my question to them is what counts as evidence?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I've asked the same thing, and I usually don't get an answer when I ask that.
Yeah. And what's interesting is they'll say, well, you have to be able to run a scientific experiment or run a scientific method on it in order to know something, right? You need hard proof or hard evidence. And
Yeah.
they mean empirical evidence.
Yeah. So they would be an empiricist, like
Right.
which
But the,
you
go
can't
ahead.
come to that conclusion by doing scientific experimentation. So
Yeah,
you
that's a great point.
like I mean, I guess I'll expand on it a little bit, to say that truth or knowledge or information or whatever is known through empirical scientific experimentation or whatever. To say, you can't test the claim itself with a scientific experiment. Like
Exactly.
you can't test that that epistemology, I guess, with science. So
Yeah.
it seems like kind of a faulty starting point.
Empiricism is a concept. You can't put a concept in a test tube.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
Right.
great point.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yep. And then another thing that I like to do is because you rarely find people who don't believe in human rights, right? That's kind of one of the gods of this age is more rights.
Hmm.
And so when you ask the atheist, okay, so you need this empirical evidence to count something as knowledge or true, then do you believe in human rights? And they'll say, yeah, of course I believe in human rights. All right, well, what are human rights? Because if you can't test them, you can't put it in a test tube.
Yeah,
So what?
yeah, right.
Yeah,
Is
what
it
would?
true that human rights are good? It's like,
Yeah,
I
try to play the atheist here. What
yeah.
could you come up with? I know I'm putting you on the spot, but what could you come up with as an atheist of what a right is?
What a right is?
Yeah, what's a human right?
I don't even know what an atheist would say here. I mean, it seems to me most of them would say that it's something that is just kind of like a brute fact that people know that people should be treated a certain way and everybody should be uh, everybody should have the same ability to do the same things in culture or whatever. Something like that, I guess.
Yeah, that's fair. Some people will say that it's kind of this thing that is innately within us, right? It's a brute
Yeah.
fact.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
that
just know it.
we just have it. Yeah.
Right. Right.
Which isn't, I mean, then you could just say, okay, well, Christianity is just a brute fact. We just know it to be true.
Right.
It's like, oh, well, I don't agree with it. Okay, so if someone else doesn't agree with you that human rights exist and they're a brute fact, then human
Yeah.
rights don't exist, right? And that pushes the conversation to,
Right.
okay, well, human rights are kind of like a social contract, right? So we have these laws that lay out what rights are, and then we have a government that enforces those laws. So those are basically what rights are. It's
Mhm.
something that a government or a group of people enforce on another group of people. That's all
Mhm.
it is. So then the only reason you can believe in these human rights is either arbitrarily, right? Or basically because you like the outcomes that this belief gives you.
Mhm.
So then my question for the atheist after this is, all right, so you're saying then not everything that is true is empirical. All right, so you're no longer an empiricist. I'm glad we got that out of the way.
Yeah.
Um, now the question is, um, if Christianity makes people's lives better or makes society better, then under your standard for believing in human rights, we should also then believe in Christianity,
Yeah.
right? Even if human rights are just a human made concept and completely made up, well,
Right.
okay, let's just say Christianity is a human made concept and it's completely made up. If it does, in fact, improve the lives of people individually and society as a whole, then we should believe in it.
Right.
And nobody ever wants to accept that. But
Yeah.
literally, all the data is on our side.
Oh, yeah, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's can't think of any of the polls but there's studies that show that people, for instance, who pray have are overall happier, in
Yeah.
general. It's just like things like that, that yeah, it definitely makes you think, like the statement you made, that we should just, if it makes life better, you should believe in it. Not I'm not actually saying that that's
Right.
my, view, that you should just believe in Christianity because it feels good or something like that.
Yeah.
Uh, but to what you were saying, yeah,
Yeah, it's just a good way to knock down, like, they're putting up these arbitrary standards of what counts as evidence,
right,
and it's just a way to show them that you're not consistent with your own standard. So don't put that standard on me if you're not even consistent with it.
right, right,
Yeah.
yeah, 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 and back to um, the lack of evidence argument. The problem is there's so many times when you will give them evidence, but then they'll say that's not evidence. It's kind of like the not a true Scotsman fallacy. If you're familiar with that, it's
Yeah.
like um, they'll only accept what they say as evidence. Except when you present your own evidence, they're like, well, that's not really evidence. That's not
Yeah.
it. But then the other problem is that, you know, I guess going back to the word presupposition, is that everybody, the Christian, the atheist, the Buddhist, the Muslim, whatever, everybody has a presupposition that they are bringing to the table when they look at evidence. So
Yeah.
everybody has a worldview lens in which they interpret evidence. So you can present evidence to an atheist, and they're going to look at the evidence as an atheist with that lens, and they're going to come up with whatever naturalistic explanation they can for that evidence.
Right.
And they're just going to say, well, I'm not convinced, or I'm not persuaded. And that's why I like to kind of make the point that there's a difference between proof and persuasion. It's like, I can give you all the proof in the world. That doesn't mean you're going to be persuaded by it, but it also doesn't mean that it's not true either. It just means that you're looking at it a certain way and I'm looking at it a certain way. You need to dig deeper and figure out whose presuppositions are correct and whose presuppositions make most sense of reality, when it comes to actually interpreting evidence. Or you could go the route that, Joel might go and say, from your worldview, what makes you think evidence is meaningful in the first place, or, something like that.
Right.
Um, or talking about how evidence kind of presupposes uh, logic and morality.
Yeah.
So you could go that direction. I think there's a lot of different ways you could go with it, but it always just seems, it's just like kind of like a cop out. Well, I don't have the evidence. It's like, well, you do. You just don't like the evidence.
Yeah.
And there's so many times, and I'm sure you've heard it, where an atheist will say something like, I just lack a belief. I don't need to make a positive case, for my atheism. And that's another cop out, because yeah, you do. Like,
Yeah.
the atheist makes many positive claims. They make positive claims about Christianity not being true, and they make positive claims about there not being a God. Well, you need to substantiate those claims. You can't just say them and just get away with it because you lack a belief. That's just a
Right.
convenient way of you dodging any kind of um, pushback that might come your way.
Yeah, and they try to relate it to like, well, if you lack a belief in Sasquatch, do you have the burden of proof to prove that Sasquatch isn't real? And it's just a category error.
Yeah,
Sasquatch is not God. God is a metaphysical reality that
right,
is a necessary precondition for intelligibility.
right.
Sasquatch exists in the realm of creation if it were to exist. So it's
Yeah,
completely different. It's just a category error.
yeah. I'm not saying Sasquatch grounds my logic and morality, but I'm also not making positive claims. That I'm not saying Sasquatch definitely doesn't exist. If I said something like that, then I think I would have to substantiate something like that. I'm
Right.
not. I'm not
And a
simply.
lot of atheists won't say that, to be fair. They
Yeah,
won't say that God definitely doesn't exist. They'll say something, and Graham Oppie, who's an atheist, calls them lack theists, right? They just
mm,
lack a belief.
yeah. Okay.
Um, but some of the positive claims they make, like you were saying, my favorite is knowledge. Knowledge is possible.
Right.
Everyone has to make that claim, otherwise you fall into absurdity. If you say knowledge is not possible,
You just
well
defeated
then
your own statement.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like it's like there is no truth, the old Frank Turek,
Yeah, yeah.
is that true?
That was a good Frank Turek. I've never heard someone impersonate Frank Turek, so that was pretty good.
Yeah, I used to be a big Frank Turek fan. I mean, I still like him a lot. He
I
still has.
like him as a person for
Yeah, yeah.
sure. He
Yeah,
seems like a great guy.
he's got some good stuff. I like his
Yeah.
lectures on truth in particular. Because actually he's not a presuppositionalist by any means, but his lectures on truth are actually very transcendental in nature. He argues transcendentally anyway,
Yeah.
at least for that topic. Not everything, but at least on
Mhm.
that one. But yeah, like you said, if you claim that we can't know anything, well, it's a self-defeating statement, because you can't know anything, but somehow you know that. So
Yeah. And so now, since knowledge is possible, now that is a positive claim, and it goes back to your atheism. Knowledge is possible even if there's no God, is what you're really saying.
Mhm.
Yeah. So if that's the case, now you have a positive claim you have to prove. The burden. That's why, like, for anybody who wants to get into debates, the prompt is so important. I had to learn this the hard way. But put the atheist on equal footing with you. Don't shoulder all the burden of proof. You don't have to.
Oh, no. Yeah, right.
Instead of the debate prompt being, is Christianity true? A lot of, and you'll see the prompts, right? Next time you look at a list of debates on your YouTube feed, look at the prompts, and you'll see this more often with the more experienced debaters. It'll be Christianity or atheism, which is true.
Mm,
Now the prompt is in a way where both sides have a burden of proof.
yeah, right. Yeah, it's not just on the one side. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that's something that more Christians need to grasp is for so many videos and debates and things that I've seen in the past, at least, it seems like we're turning a new leaf, but it's so many of them that I've seen is the Christian just being berated with questions, the Christians on the defensive. And I think, like you said, they need to be on equal footing, like flip the script on them, ask them questions, ask how they came to whatever conclusions they have, or ask them why they believe what they believe, or how do they ground logic and knowledge and morality and all of those things without God. So it because I think there's a lot of people out there that have never been asked those questions and they really have no idea as to why it is that they believe what they believe or how they would ground those things.
Yeah.
And it's not like a ha gotcha type thing, but it's a like kind of Greg Kokel likes to say, putting a stone in their shoe,
Mm,
like make them think like, okay, yeah, I've never thought about that before. And now I need to go figure that out because, that's an important question, or those are important questions.
absolutely. I've one of my first experiences with this type of thinking, this meta level thinking affecting people in real time was I was in Boston street preaching with a friend, and my friend was preaching at the time. And a guy came out, and I was across the street handing out tracts. And he came out and he started swearing at the top of his lungs, saying blasphemous things about Jesus. And, your first instinct is like, all right, let's debate.
Yeah,
But thinking presuppositionally, it's like, all right, this person knows God exists, and
right,
clearly they're angry.
right.
Like, why else? What other? Like, why aren't 99.9% of people that are walking by having this reaction? His anger at God is manifesting in real time. And
Hmm.
I just looked at him and I said, "Hey, man, why do you hate God?" And he just looked at me, smiled, and said, "Yeah, man, you're right. I'm sorry." And I was shocked. I was like, I didn't expect that.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
expected him to yell at me.
right.
um, and then I shook his hand. We had a great conversation, and it turned out he just got convicted of a misdemeanor. He was out of his way out of court, and so he was angry at life. Right?
Right.
He's got to
Yeah,
deal with this misdemeanor,
yeah,
and that ultimately leads back to, like, thinking life isn't fair. God, why'd you do this to me? Right? And we had a nice conversation, and I gave him my Bible, but those this way of thinking really cuts to the center of the human experience with God. Either you love God or you hate him. That's what the Bible tells us.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And when you understand that, you realize, like, this isn't an intellectual matter. We can use the intellect as a way to engage people, but it's a spiritual matter.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, and that's actually a really awesome story because I think it just cuts to the heart of the difference between, the intellectual conversations and then the more kind of like pastoral type of interactions that you might have, because there's a lot of people that are just out there hurting and they're not really looking for any kind of philosophical diatribe as to why they're suffering or whatever, like, for instance, the problem of evil. I mean, that's one of probably the biggest things that atheists bring up. And there are a lot of times that I think people bring those things up in the midst of experiencing some kind of deep loss or some kind of deep suffering of some sort. And in those instances, that person, the last thing they need is like a lecture on the philosophy of, evil and the existence of God, right? It's sometimes all we need to do is like just pray with that person, you
Yeah.
know, or just talk to just have a normal conversation with them and show them that
Yeah.
you're just a normal person and you care, because even that can be apologetic in nature,
Yeah.
so yeah, I mean, I think we need to be just aware of our surroundings and aware of the different situations that we could be encountering and be able to be shaped by that, be able to mold the way that we're interacting with people based on those things. Because like I said, I think there's a lot of people out there that just are like what you experienced. They're angry at life right now, and
Yeah.
yeah, we just need to talk to them like a normal human being. And so I think that's important to keep in mind.
Yeah, and ultimately to your point is bringing them into the church community. Like, a lot of people get like a friendship. What is it? It's called friendship evangelism. Gets
Mm.
kind of a bad rap. And I understand why, like, it can be kind of deceptive if you're only looking to make friends for this reason. I don't even know if I fully agree with that being deceptive, but it gets kind of a bad rap. But ultimately, especially people like you said who are not looking for philosophical arguments, just being around people who love God and love their neighbor
Yeah,
changes a person. You
yeah.
can yes, the gospel needs to be preached. A person needs to understand the work that Jesus did on the cross in order to be saved. I totally get that. Totally agree.
Mhm.
But just giving them a community can do wonders.
Yeah, yeah, there's a lot of lonely people out there. A lot of people are looking for a place to belong, and there's no better place to belong than with the people that worship the God who made you and made them. And
Absolutely.
yeah, so that's definitely important as well. And you brought up a good point too. When you were talking to that guy, you said, um, you know, presuppositionally, you're thinking, this guy knows God exists and he hates God, and that's why you asked him the question, why do you hate God? And I think that kind of brings up the next objection that I've come across a little more recently. It seems to be gaining some traction, and I think it's probably because of Alex O'Connor. He seems to be the one, at least, that I first saw this from, and that was the problem of divine hiddenness.
Mm,
The I guess I guess the way they word it, if God exists and wants a relationship with us, why doesn't he make himself more obvious? Like that type of thing. And I had never really heard that argument before, but you saying we know God exists just kind of made me think of it. And yeah, just thinking out loud, it's like that's not really the like no Christian believes that. Like
yeah.
I don't, like the Bible says that God has made himself known. I mean, Romans 1,
Yeah.
Psalm 19:1. It's
What's
like
the presupposition there
with the
with
divine
Alex's argument? Yeah. What
with
is
that
he assuming?
argument, I mean, I guess he's assuming that that would be unfair.
Well, what I'm trying to get at is he's assuming that what you just said, God hasn't made himself obvious.
Yeah, right. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that's the presupposition.
Yeah.
You're saying God hasn't made himself obvious because otherwise I would believe in him.
Yeah,
But
right.
what I like to do with that is and I don't know how your journey was with Christianity. I don't know if you were born into a Christian home or not. Um but for me, even though I was born into a Christian home, I spent many of my teenage years chasing women. And sometimes you get in yeah, you too?
I think we're the same person.
All right. So you'll relate to this then maybe. I There are sometimes you're in a relationship with a girl and maybe because she's just so beautiful, there are things you overlook even though they're obvious to you. Like maybe her flirting with other men or, you know, there are times where we hide the obvious facts because we don't like the consequences of
Yeah.
those facts.
We want to
And
suppress that truth. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Self-deception. Now, here's an interesting thing I like to pose because people, very stupid people, mind you, forgive me for saying that, but the people I've heard this from are the most disingenuous. And they make this argument that if God exists, I know he exists. I don't know God exists, therefore God doesn't exist. Right? And so what the reason this objection comes up is because of people like us saying the Bible says that you know God exists. And they'll say, well, I don't know God exists because knowledge is a justified true belief. And in order to know something, you have to believe it first. So therefore, I don't know God. Well, self-deception is a thing like we just talked about. Everybody's had an experience of self-deception. And if not, you know someone who has. You know someone who like, dude, your girl is cheating on you, obviously.
Yeah.
Like she's just using you for your money or for just to be comfortable in a relationship. And it's right in front of your eyes. And you're like, no, man, she's not. She would never do anything like that. Right.
Yeah.
We
Right.
all know
Right.
about that
Oh,
experience one
yep. I've seen that.
day.
I've had
And
that
so,
conversation many times.
and so what is self-deception? It's something that you know, but you're unwilling to believe, which
Mhm.
is kind of a paradox because to know something is to have this justified true belief. And so here's the thing. This is a great question. I love this question. If yourself, can you be self-deceived about something you don't know?
Can you be self-deceived about something you don't know?
Yeah. Can you deceive yourself about something you don't know?
I don't know. I don't think I've ever heard that question. I've never thought
So
about that.
think about it this way. Let's say, do you do fantasy sports of any kind?
No. I don't
I
know enough
don't
about
either.
sports to I like sports, but I don't know enough
Yeah.
about it to like actually win anything.
Right. Yeah, I played a bunch of sports in high school, and if my friend invites me over to watch a game and have a beer, I'm down.
Right. Yeah,
um,
yeah. I'm like, football, cool. It's on. Let's
yeah.
watch.
Yep. I know the rules enough to
Yeah.
enjoy it.
Yeah.
Um, so let's say we're in a fantasy league, and I know a ton about sports, and you don't. Um, and we're going to draft day, right? Draft day for Final Fantasy is when you pick all of your players at the beginning of the season.
Mhm.
So we're sitting down, and we all have to put in $100, and there's 10 guys, and the prize is $1,000 for first place. And because I'm so money hungry and greedy, for you, I'm like, you're like, hey man, who should I pick for my running back? Because I don't really know these guys. And I give you some like obscure, awful person, and I'm
Yeah.
deceiving you on purpose.
Right, right.
That entails that I know that choice is a bad choice and that there's a better choice.
Right.
So for me to deceive you, I have to have some knowledge about the deception of what I'm deceiving you about.
Mhm.
But when it comes to self-deception, the only person involved in this is you. So you're the one being deceived and you're also the deceiver. So the one who's being deceived usually doesn't have the knowledge. That's why they're deceived, right?
Right.
But the deceiver has the knowledge. So since you're both in this situation, you have to know something in order to deceive yourself about it. Because if you didn't know it, there's nothing to deceive. You would just be unknowing. You just wouldn't know.
Mhm.
It's like if you knew there was hard evidence that your girl was cheating on you, you would do something about it.
Right.
But uh if you're unwilling to do something about it because of the consequences, then you've deceived yourself even though the evidence is there and you have the knowledge of it still.
Right.
You're just refusing to accept it.
Right.
And that's what we say is going on with atheists.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's like a very deep way of looking at Romans 1:18,
Right.
that they're suppressing the truth. It's like that's the why behind or that's like how they're doing it, right?
Mhm. And
Yeah.
someone like Alex O'Connor will be like, no, but I really want to believe God exists. I would love to have this belief that there's someone out there who is, controlling everything and is looking out for me. And it's like, no, well, you're forgetting about the fact that there are many consequences of believing in Christianity, such that
Yeah.
there are things
Yeah.
in your life that will have to change drastically.
Yeah, you might lose your channel. You might lose, you know, your platform if you leave atheism, or I guess he doesn't call himself that anymore. I guess he's more of an agnostic now,
Yeah.
or that's how he refers to himself. But I mean, he's known as the cosmic skeptic, right? It's like, well, if you become a Christian, that name's probably not going to make too much sense.
Yeah.
So you're going to have
So
to start all over.
right, and I'm not gonna dox you or say what your career is. I don't know if you're open about that, but I'm sure you've seen people who come into your career, and after the first day, you're like, they're not coming back tomorrow.
Oh yeah, all the time, all the
Yeah,
time.
that's Alex O'Connor. Okay,
Yeah.
so Alex O'Connor has a lot to lose by being a Christian and believing in God. He's not
Yes.
gonna go last out there with you for a day.
No. Yeah. I mean, it's it's kind of like you look at Islam, you look at Muslims, especially in the Middle East. If they become a Christian, they literally have everything to lose, including their life,
Yeah,
if they leave Islam, if they become a Christian. So it's people have a lot on the line, and they say, I want this to be true, but they're they're still appealing to the deeper emotional issues behind everything else going on in their life that that they're not really putting out there. So yeah, that's definitely.
and it also wraps back into the human rights argument. It's like, all right, so you have no evidence to believe that God exists, but you're saying you would really like for this God to exist because it would make you feel better. Okay, well, this is literally the same thing with human rights. You have zero
Yeah,
evidence of this thing, but you believe in it because it makes you feel better.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's like with Alex, it's like, I want to believe this. Well, then just believe it.
Yeah. Great point.
I mean,
Yeah.
if you want to so badly, then what's stopping you? Like I made the point um, on another episode when I was talking about how atheists, they rely on God for knowledge, for logic, for morality, for induction, uniformity of nature, all of those things. Like they rely on God for all of those things. Why not rely on God for their salvation? It's
Yeah.
you know,
That's a great point.
when it when it comes to Alex, like, well, just believe it.
Right.
um, but it's yeah, and another there's another thing that he's brought up more recently, not the divine hiddenness thing. I mean, that was one of his earlier arguments that I came across, but I think he may have made this argument on Jubilee, where he was saying that he could make an argument against God for suffering, animal and human suffering, without appealing to morality. But I don't know how he does that exactly. Because if you're talking about suffering, well, then you're assuming that suffering is not a good thing. And so, how do you ground that? So, I don't know if you've heard him talking about that, or have heard that argument that he's made there.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to steel man the argument exactly,
Yeah,
but I
yeah,
do have, yeah. And I mean, it's basically even without invoking morality, which, like you said, I'm not exactly sure how he does that or how he could do that.
right.
Um, but even saying, okay, well, suffering just makes me feel bad, right? Like pain is objectively a bad feeling, whether or not it's evil, right?
Hmm.
Okay. Well, if you knew anything about Christianity and the history of Christianity, all of the church fathers talked about this issue. And a lot of church fathers believed that in the eschaton, when Jesus comes back and makes all things new again,
Hmm.
that the animals will be restored to a glorified a sense, in a like not glorified like we will be glorified, but in
Right,
a sense of a glorified state where it will be just like when Adam and Eve were here. Adam and Eve did not eat animals. I
right,
mean,
right.
I don't even think they did after the fall. I'm not quite sure about that. Because if I'm correct, after the flood, God he told Noah, it's okay. Like the animals are here for you to eat. But before that, we don't see that. And what we see is the first death of an animal
Mhm.
is to cover the sin of Adam and Eve, right? To
Right.
cover their nakedness.
Right.
And it's a picture of the gospel, a beautiful picture of the gospel.
Yeah.
Um, and so, like, that's not a problem in Christianity. We agree. We agree with you that animals are suffering, and they're suffering because of our sin. Well, how's that fair? Well, we had dominion over them, right?
Yeah.
That's a natural concept that we all understand. If
Right.
I voted for Trump, and that's not to say that I agree with everything he does or he's a perfect person by any means,
I didn't know
but
you were a
let's
bigot. That's
that's it. Interview over.
yeah.
um, yeah. So with Trump in office, let's say he did do something crazy that all the leftists want to say he's just gonna, become a Nazi and do something crazy and blow up the world. Let's say he started a war with Russia. When Russia sends troops on our land, if that, God forbid, that ever happened, do you think that other people are going to face the consequences for that and not just Trump? Yeah. Why?
Yeah. Yep.
Because Trump, the presidency has a certain dominion, right? It doesn't mean we're dominated by him in that sense, but he has a headship. He's our leader. So his actions will bring consequences to the people who are under his dominion,
Right.
right? That's just a
Right.
natural concept that we understand. And the animals are under our dominion. So our sin, God cursed the world because of our sin.
Yeah.
Why? Because he gave the world to us under our dominion.
Yeah. I mean, it says creation groans, so it's like
Yeah.
the whole creation. Everything in creation is subject to the fall,
Yeah.
and yeah, we see that. So
It's not God's fault, Alex. It's your fault.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's our fault that animals suffer. I mean, it is, but yeah. But even on a deeper level, like I was saying, it seems to, that suffering in general seems to like presuppose something else, right? And so that's I don't know. I guess that's how I would go about it, is like, how do you ground that suffering is a bad thing? I mean, you brought up
Right.
that objectively, for the thing or person or animal or whatever that's suffering, objectively it sucks, it hurts, but without a grounding to say that it's bad, subjectively on the outside of it, you're kind of just like, well, whatever. That's not really a big deal. Like, yeah, it sucks that they feel pain or whatever, but that's not really a bad thing. That's just,
Yeah.
I don't prefer it, right? It's more of a preference at that point.
Yeah.
Um,
Ultimately, all those arguments boil down, and this is something I got from Jim Bob. And all of those arguments boil down to, why am I not God?
right.
Because yeah,
Yeah.
it brings it back to well, okay, why do animals suffer? Okay,
Hmm.
all right. Let's say that animals don't suffer anymore. Okay, now this world is more akin to what you would do if you were God. Okay. All right. Well, then why do animals need to eat? Wouldn't
Right.
it be easier if we didn't have to eat?
Right.
Okay, all right. Now animals don't have to eat. This is now even more of a world akin to what you would want. Well, why are animals limited in strength and speed? Like, why can't they just kind of be like faster and stronger? And
Yeah.
maybe why can't they fly? Like, you just kind of go down the road, and it's ultimately,
Yeah.
well, why can't I do whatever I want? Why can't I be God?
Yeah.
That's the ultimate objection.
There's d- I've said that before, is that a lot of these arguments boil down to the unbeliever just not liking how God is doing things.
Yeah.
They would prefer things to be a different way. But like you said, that's just a never ending excuse me, it's just a never ending trail of, oh well, why can't animals talk? Why can't they fly? Why don't they all have opposable thumbs? Why can't they have jobs? Why you know, it's like,
Yeah.
because we're not
So,
God and we didn't order it that way. So
exactly. Have you ever heard of an atheist named Tom Jump?
I've heard that name.
Yeah, Joel's debated him twice.
Oh, maybe
You
that's
might
what
have
it
seen
is.
some of that.
Yeah, I've probably seen.
This is like the number one example of what we just talked about. He has a unique moral theory, all right? So there are some atheists who want to say they have objective morality. Actually, most like academic atheists will hold this position.
Yeah, yeah, I've seen.
And yeah, and so Tom Jump does it in a way where his moral theory is basically anything that goes against your will is immoral. So if you want to, I'll be to be careful with my language, do a very evil thing to somebody else, put it that way, um, then someone stopping you is actually evil in his worldview because it goes against your freedom, your will. So in his mind, there could be an example of everybody having their own universe. This is what he says. Everybody having their own universe where they control the laws of nature and all this stuff. And everyone lives by themselves in their own universe. And you can come into my universe only by your choice. And so anything that happens in my universe, you've already subjected yourself to. So it's not evil anymore because you made the choice to be here. And so as long as everybody has their own choice to do whatever they want, whatever those things are, is ultimately good.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's out there.
It sounds extremely arbitrary, and I would I would be willing to bet that he does not live consistently with that mindset. But
He'll
also, it sounds
call,
like a weird version of like solipsism, like you know
yeah,
what I
like a
mean? Like,
moral solipsism.
yeah, like almost a
Yeah,
weird. Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to.
that's a fun name. I like that, moral solipsism.
It's
That
it's,
was good. I like that.
it's very interesting. I have not heard that. I'd love to. How does Joel? How does he?
So
How does
they
he?
didn't, I don't remember what their first debate was about, but I'm pretty sure it was on the existence of God both times. So they didn't get into moral theories.
Okay.
But Jim Bob recently had a debate a few months ago with him on the moral theory. So
Mm.
that's interesting. Yeah,
You have to send me a link or something and
I
through
got you.
Instagram. I wanna check that out because that's that sounds pretty wild.
Yeah, and what does it sound like? It's like, well, if everybody's God, then everything's okay. That's ultimately what it is.
Right. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
it all goes back to the garden, it all goes
yeah,
back to that very first lie that we were told, like, "Oh,
exactly.
you could be God," you could
Yeah.
know all those things. And but his theory, it's like a mix between, I just made up some random thing, I don't know, does he do a lot of drugs? I don't know, it sounds
I don't think he does, but
it sounds like
he's
that
an
could be mixed
interesting
with some
character
kind
for
of,
sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
some kind of psychedelic experience or something like.
Yeah, it's tied to like modal logic,
Mm,
which deals with like the possibility of worlds, right?
okay.
Yeah, so like there's a possible world
What does
in
he mean
which,
by world, though?
so in modal logic, a world is like a universe that could exist. So like you could imagine a universe where God exists, Christianity is true, everything's the same, except you're wearing my shirt and I'm wearing your shirt. There's nothing logically incoherent with that world, right?
Okay, yeah, no,
Yeah, like
like,
it's just a different circumstance.
yeah,
So that's kind of like what modal logic deals with. And so his argument kind of ties into it, not directly, but
yeah.
it's very similar. It's in that realm.
But it seems like it's focused more on these potential could be universes and not so much the one we're actually in.
Yeah, and so he now there is a way to like base arguments off of possible universes. Like that's what we do with hypotheticals, right? So
Yeah.
like you ate breakfast this morning, right?
Mhm.
If I ask you how would you feel if you didn't eat breakfast this morning? You'd say, well, maybe hungry, right?
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe
I mean, I
maybe
ate
hungry,
some other
maybe tired.
things too, so,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
throughout the day, so but
Right.
maybe more
But
hungry.
that hypothetical is you imagining a possible world in which you didn't eat breakfast this morning. So
Mhm.
there is a place for these hypotheticals and possible worlds.
Sure.
Um, but I mean, his argument is still trash. That doesn't change that.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's interesting. We have to look into that, look into him a little more, and kind of get a maybe a better understanding of what he's really arguing or what he's really saying there. Um, and also watch that debate because I'd be interested in seeing how that goes. But but um, man, I don't have a whole lot more for you. So I don't know if you had any closing remarks or anything, or if you just want to tell everybody where they can find you. I know we did that earlier on in the episode, but you know how it goes. Sometimes people skip through and maybe they'll miss that part and maybe they'll see this part. So, you know, just tell them what your channel is and where everybody can find you and follow you and subscribe and all those good things.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me. I had a great time. I love connecting with new people, and hopefully we can do more in the future. I love helping other creators out. I think we need more people from a Christian worldview doing these types of things, and especially engaging with atheists and non-Christians. Um, my channels again are all at Wi-Fi Gospel, mainly on YouTube. I do a lot of shorts as well on like Instagram. I also just started a new channel. It's just my name at Alexander Medeiros with two X's. Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube for now. Again, I just started it. It's more my political thoughts. YouTube is weird where once you're kind of in a niche, unless you get really, really big, if you start switching up your niche, YouTube doesn't really push out your videos in that
Uh,
way.
oh, weird.
Yeah, so I'm separating it so that way I can still do all of the Christian related stuff here. And not that, you know, politics isn't related to Christianity. Obviously, it's completely interwoven. But on
Right, right,
YouTube,
right.
it's different niches. So
Yeah,
that's why
yeah,
I separated it. So if you want to follow me on there too, that'd be cool.
yeah, yeah. Cool. Sweet, man. Well, yeah, I really appreciate you coming on. And talking about, I don't know, maybe just different ways we can address objections from atheists and just encourage others to go out and do the same thing, go out and talk to people, have conversations, push push these things on them, you know, make them think about what it is that they believe and why they believe it, and you know, make them question their worldview. So and ultimately call them to repentance in Christ and invite them to church. So
Yeah.
but yeah, well, you know, brothers and sisters, as always, thanks for watching and listening. And thanks for Alex again for being on the show. And remember to always go and give a reason for the hope that is in you. Do that with love and respect. And I'll see you next time.